Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about The Northman, and this movie is directed by Robert Eggers, and it came out in 2022, and this is from the same director as The Witch and The Lighthouse, and those are two movies that I really love, and I love this movie as well. I don't like it as much as The Witch or The Lighthouse, but I feel as though I did get a lot out of this movie, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and as far as plot synopsis is concerned, my mom read the back of this movie because she likes to know what the plot of the movie is before going into it, whereas I like to go in blind. And I'll just read the back of this really quickly because it's only like one sentence. From visionary director Robert Eggers comes The Northman, an action-filled epic that follows a young Viking prince on his quest to avenge his father's murder. And although that doesn't really say a whole lot for a movie that's almost like 2.5 hours, that's basically it as far as a plot is concerned. And what this movie is really concerned with is taking that plot and giving you a really great presentation along with it. Everything that comes along with its presentation is like the meat of what you're supposed to get out of it, and there's a lot of things going on under the surface, and it does work as a surface level revenge story, and there's some really great action in the film. It's pretty violent and bloody, and that doesn't happen like every 5 seconds, but when it does occur, like some of the violence in the movie, like it feels real. Like characters are getting killed and like cut and like beaten to death, and that's what I love, is how real it feels. And one criticism that I did have is that I thought not all the effects, but a couple of them felt a little weird. There was one fox in this movie that walked into like a shadow of a cave, and there was like, it's 1 second of the movie, but it did kind of take me out of it, where it kind of was like, it looked like it was lacking almost. Like I was looking at extra pixels or something. I don't know what happened there. It just looked kind of weird. Maybe it was just me, but that was one thing that kind of bugged me about it. But the rest of the effects look great, and this movie shoots everything on location. It looks beautiful. It's incredibly well shot. It's a very gorgeous movie to look at, and there's nothing wrong there. The performances are great in this movie, and I like the dialect of the film, and everything just feels incredibly natural. Like, yeah, these characters would be talking like this in this time period, and unlike The Witch or The Lighthouse, it's not as difficult to understand what characters are saying, I think. Though I still watched this movie with subtitles just to make sure that didn't happen again. And I don't criticize the movie for me not being super familiar with how characters talk in Robert Eggers' movies. I'm just saying that I'm just not super familiar with it, and sometimes it can be difficult to understand what they're saying. And I feel like watching his movies with subtitles helps out a lot, for me personally. And before I get further into the movie, no, I'm not going to judge you if you don't watch movies with subtitles or you find it distracting. I'll never judge you for that. I just like to watch movies with subtitles just to make sure I don't miss anything. And my mom makes fun of me all the time for watching movies with subtitles. And she's like, you're basically just reading the movie instead of watching the movie. And for me personally, that's not my experience. I can pay attention to both. I really like the characters in this movie, and I find them very interesting, and I like the whole journey that our main character goes on, and it's very engaging for me throughout most of it. And probably my biggest criticism with this movie is that I did feel it dragging at a few points, and I do think the movie is too long for what it is. And also, on a side note, apparently Robert Eggers didn't get to the final cut of this movie. There was some studio interference with this film, and as much as I enjoyed the movie, I would have liked to have seen what his version of this movie would be, like his final cut, if that makes sense, because I do feel as though a lot of this movie is like his voice. I do feel like it's a movie from him, but I do wish that we would have gotten that version of the movie, like his final cut of The Northman, because this was like a, I guess, a bigger budget movie. Like it had a $90 million budget, and the studio probably said like, nah, you can't really do that, and just had it like a bit more accessible. And I can definitely see why. And originally when this movie came out, it didn't really do too well, but later on people discovered it, and like it, I think it became profitable once it came out on physical media, and people bought the Blu-rays and DVDs, and that helped out the film a lot. And at this point it's no longer a flop. So that's good. And this movie does have moments where it is kind of artfully presented, and it gets a little weird at points, but it never feels pretentious to me personally, and I like that element about the movie. That is, it is kind of weird at points, but I like it. I think it adds to the film. I also really enjoyed the music in the movie. I thought it worked very well, and there was one part of the score that kind of reminded me of Skyrim, like this big chanting, like I don't know how to recreate it using my own voice, but it did kind of remind me a little bit of Skyrim whenever that came up, and like it wasn't distracting for me personally. It just made me think, oh, that makes sense. And that's about all I have to say about The Northman. I thought it was great. It was very engaging throughout most of it. I do feel as though it was a little long, but despite my criticisms, I would still definitely recommend the movie. And even if you weren't the biggest fan of The Witch or The Lighthouse, I do think that you shouldn't have a problem enjoying this movie. And I think you'll get quite a bit out of it. And even on a surface level, like I said earlier, it works as a straightforward revenge story, even if you like don't really read into like what's going on underneath the surface. And it's just a really well made movie. It's very well put together, and I would highly recommend it. And with all that being said, I'm going to give The Northman an 8 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos as always. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below what you thought of The Northman, and my social media links, they will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Bully Nation, and I'll see you when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for... This is going to be the first time I'm going to be doing this, and it's a little bit different from what I've done in the past. It's a review, technically, but it's mostly just me revisiting a movie that I just been getting the urge to rewatch again, and I do have more to say about it, and I think it will be a fun idea. I'm going to be talking about The Big Lebowski again, and just give you some updated thoughts on this movie. So look forward to that. But until I get that up, thank you for watching, and have a great day.